Alright, how's it going, YouTube? I'm going to do a quick review of this Eluktronics THINN 15 laptop that I just got in a couple days ago. Got everything set up, and this is from a Linux user's perspective. So, first of all, I have the D brand skin. It's $10 extra. This laptop cost me $800 bare bones, and I put a sticker over their branding. The D brand logo has like a cutout for their branding, and I covered up with a sticker. So I would highly recommend you get a D brand skin. It adds, this laptop is kind of silvery. It's kind of ugly. They do have a black model. They sell this in a black model, but Eluktronics decided to do silver. I don't like the silver, so I opted for the black D brand skin just to kind of black it out, get rid of the silver a little bit. And I do like it. It adds some texture to it. It looks pretty nice. The colors of these, you can see some of these are darker black, some of these are lighter. It changes as the angle orientation of the laptop, so it's kind of like a dynamic, it's like a dynamic skin, sort of. The colors will kind of dynamically shift on you, which is very nice. Adds some sort of texture to this because this laptop is magnesium alloy, so it's like super thin. Well, it is thin, but it's a very smooth and like slippery kind of. It has like a metal, like an aluminum feel, so this adds some nice texture so you can grip it better, and it just looks really great. So what's the specs of my model? So it has I have a 4800H 8-core 7nm Zen 2 CPU. As it stands out of the box, it'll boost up to about 4.15 gigahertz all core, but it then throttles for some reason down about 3.6, 3.7. So stock pace, it goes about 3.6 at about 76, 78 degrees. If I had liquid metal, which I had a liquid metal to it, goes about 71, 72 at 3.68. There is some sort of throttling going on here. I don't know why it's stopping at 72 degrees Celsius. If it can run this thing at 4.1, 4.15, there's no reason why it should be stopping at 3.7. I mean, there's a lot of thermal headroom at 72 degrees. AMD has this thing listed at 105 degrees max temperature. So you could easily get this thing running at 89 degrees comfortably, probably in the 4.1, 4.15s, maybe even 4.2, which is probably, I think it's the max all core. I've seen this thing run max single core at 4.3, 4.29. So there's a lot of headroom in terms of tuning, and that tuning would be in terms of, in Linux systems, that would be in terms of Rise and Adjust, which is a software program that allows you to kind of play with the CPU in terms of how it's running. There's no undervolting, so the only times you're going to improve thermals and stuff like that, or even performance in this case, because you can see there, you're going to have to just liquid metal it and then Rise and Adjust. That's the best you can get out of this thing. But it runs very quiet. The fans are extremely quiet, even at max load. You can barely hear them. And yeah, it's like super quiet laptop. It's extremely quiet. You can barely hear the fans. So also in terms of the specs of what I have, I bought this thing bare bones for $800, right? And I bought I have 64 gigs of RAM in this. I bought two 32 gigabyte sticks off Amazon. They're CL18, so the Eluktronics give you CL22 by default. So you can pretty much buy this stuff bare bones and then buy the stuff on Amazon for the same price that they ship it to you pre-assembled. But you can get you can get faster RAM than what they give you, and you can also get, I bought a 2TB TLC SSD. I wasn't sure if they're going to give me a QLC drive, so which has worse performance and worse write endurance. So I just bought my own SSD and stuck it in there anyway. So yeah, in terms of performance here, so liquid metal drops at about 5 to 6 degrees Celsius, boosts about 50 megahertz. There is some tuning to be done here because there's a lot of headroom going on, a lot of performance left on the table in terms of how it's implemented by stock. It has a 54 watt power limit, but this thing could probably, I don't know why it's not running faster. I don't know what's going on, how it runs at 4.15 initially, or 4.1, then it goes down to 3.6, 3.7. I know it doesn't make sense to me. It's some sort of throttling going on for some reason. I don't know why. But in terms of performance here, so I ran CSGO. It runs about 50, 60 FPS at 1080p, 80 to 100, whatever, depending on where you're looking at, and then frame dips at 2030. So because of these frame dips, I do not recommend it for any sort of competitive gaming, it's going to drive you nuts with those frame dips. Let me just, yeah, I guess let's keep going here. So there are some other, so this is a Chinese laptop, right? It's from THINN. So with that, there's lots of resellers of these laptops, and you can, they're pretty much all the same laptops. So all these other companies, Eluktronics, XMG, whatever, yada yada yada, even THINN themselves, they all sell the same laptop. So that means that you can flash whatever BIOS you want from any company you want, and it's all going to work okay. The only thing that might change is, obviously you're going to get the new features or whatever they give you, but you might get like a different splash screen of like XMG or Eluktronics or whatever. So you can kind of shop around for whatever BIOS you want that has the features that you want, because sometimes some companies don't update BIOSes as frequently as others, so you can kind of just flash whatever you want. There is a new current BIOS out. Eluktronics has not updated BIOS, but there is another BIOS out there that's newer, that you can set the VRAM from 512 megabytes to 4 gigabytes of the internal GPU. That will use up either 512 megabytes or 4 gigabytes of your internal memory. So it uses system memory, your DDR4, and it will allocate that to your GPU. And you can set that in the BIOS, or you can also limit the power limit. So by default, it goes to 54 watts. I believe this BIOS lets you set to 40 or even 30 watts, or maybe even 20 watts. I don't remember what it is, but you can decrease the power limit if you want to save on battery, all that stuff. And also in general, you can use this laptop comfortably at max CPU. So I was running this thing max CPU at stock pace, so it was about 78 degrees, maybe even 80 degrees, and it was very comfortable on my lap. The only place that this thing really gets hot is, you know, slightly on the back, the bottom panel, but this top here, it's kind of where the CPU is in this location. Their fans are on the corners. It kind of feels warm to the touch here. It's not uncomfortable, but it is warm here. Everything in general is pretty, I mean, it's slightly warm, but like it's comfortable. So also the bad stuff about this thing. So the webcam, it's decent quality. It's at the top of the screen, so it's not going to look up your nose like some of those RP15s or those other AMD laptops. So it's in a good position, but the quality is decent. It's not the best. The USB-C port here does not support DisplayPort out, so you cannot use one cable for everything. For your video, power, and also data. Doesn't support DisplayPort out. So I'm currently using those 3 cables on the right. So I have the power with the barrel plug, HDMI for my 4K output, and then USB for all the peripherals and all that stuff. So yeah, it would be nice. They should have just added that, but they didn't. There's thin metal. So this laptop is a thin laptop with magnesium alloy. It's a very lightweight, but there is a little bit of flex of this top panel. And I'd be slightly hesitant to put this in your backpack, and maybe like if you fell on your laptop, I could easily see this screen breaking. Or if you had some, like, this laptop is thin and light. Let's just say that it's not a bulky laptop, so you're gonna have to be cautious of what's smashing up against this panel. Also, this back metal has some popping. It kind of, so you can see here, like I can push in here, it's solid, right? But at the center point here, there is like some metal. The metal goes up and down here. So the metal is super thin and it kind of like goes up and down here. So you're gonna have to, maybe if you buy a laptop, you might have to stick something like a thermal pad or something underneath to kind of block this from going down, or you can just leave it as it is. It's not going to affect anything. It is what it is. Also, it's not thin enough to where you can press down on the fans. This is pretty solid. The only part is the middle part, and it just makes it'll just make some noise if you kind of push up and down on it. There's very large rubber pads, so it's not going to move anywhere while it's on your desk. And what else we got on my list here? There's only one NVMe drive in here. There is space for 2 if they could have rearranged it as such, but it's only one NVMe. BIOS options. There's variable BIOS options in the stock BIOS. You can set your boot order. You can set secure boot on and off. That's pretty much it. This keyboard, I do not like this keyboard. It's a decent keyboard, so it's black. and it has a white backlight, and the backlight's pretty good. But the issue with this keyboard, first of all, it has minimal travel. It's a decent laptop keyboard. It has, compared to like a ThinkPad, like the older ThinkPads, not the best travel. This has minimal travel, but it's a pretty crisp thing, pretty crisp actuation, and it feels decent. Like it's a decent keyboard. Okay. The issue with the keyboard is that the design of this keyboard, where stuff can fall beneath here, and it will actually stop your actuation. I had some plastic printer filament fall in here, and it ended up blocking my. It'll stop your keys from pressing down. You can see there are like some scratches under there where I had to dig with a paper clip and some pliers and get this plastic out of my keyboard. But stuff is probably going to fall on your keyboard, and it's going to stop you from being able to type if it's a hard object. So if it's a small hard object and you get something in your keyboard, you won't be able to type on that key unless you can like dig it out or something, or that is an issue. I do not like that, but you're probably not going to have hard small objects typically in your life fall on your keyboard, so it's probably going to be okay. But it is a slight annoyance that is a possibility where it could infringe the uses of the keyboard if stuff falls in there. There's no status LEDs, so the only LEDs on this thing is a power LED and a charging LED. There is no hard drive indicator LEDs like when your hard drive is being used. That's kind of annoying when stuff like you have some long process, you're copying a lot of files and you want to check if it's still running or not. You can't check that by an LED, which is slightly annoying. The good stuff about this, so it has a USB-C. That USB-C port has power delivery, so it can do 100 watt USB-C power delivery. You can carry you're going to need 90 watts or 100 watt power to fully power this laptop through USB-C. You can get one of those thin GAN chargers, and if you buy a thin 90 watt, 100 watt USB-C charger and carry that with you, you can charge the laptop through USB-C power delivery. But you can also charge if you buy a USB-C power bank, you can also charge that up through 100 watt charging through your power bank, and this power bank can charge your laptop. So the power bank can just charge your laptop through 100 watt USB-C, and you can also charge your power bank back up with 100 watt USB-C through your charger, your 100 watt. So you have a USB-C GAN charger through the wall. You can power your laptop and your power bank, and then your power bank can also do 100 watt USB-C to charge the laptop. So you have a power bank. You can have a power bank, and you can charge your laptop through that. So, like I used to have one of these older style power banks, and these things would trip. These things would trip. I have a 4-core Intel CPU, and this thing would trip at max load. So like the fact that this thing has support for USB-C power delivery, and this thing can support 100 watts of power delivered to this thing at max load with no, it can support it all the time. That's pretty great. So as long as you use kernel 5.8 or newer, you should be good to go. Everything works out of the box pretty much. I believe there are some features, like some quality of life stuff in terms of power management and stuff like that are kind of still being developed, but all the features of your laptop that you need, they will work fine. So like I said, that's the specs of my thing. It has quite thin and light, it's cheap, and 90 watt hour battery, great battery life. I believe on idle it was about 12 to 14 hours listed on my computer, so great battery life. In terms of if you should buy this laptop or not, there are some stuff in the works right now in terms of AMD. So they have like the 2022 somewhere around there, the 5 nanometer Ryzen stuff, PCI Express 5.5, DDR5, USB 4, DisplayPort Alt Mode 2.0 is also coming out in 2021, which lets you drive like 16K, 8K, 4K high refresh rate, all that stuff, monitors. So all through one USB-C cable. I also know in somewhere around mid 2021 or early 2021, there's going to be Zen 3 laptops coming out. So there might be a refresh of this laptop. Hopefully, if they have a refresh of this laptop, they'll add USB-C DisplayPort out so you can have a single cable to dock and use your laptop. But in terms of if you buy this now, there's going to be a 1 to 2 month wait for buying this laptop as it stands. Yeah, that's getting close to Zen 3 release in terms of laptops, so you might want to wait for that. Or if you want to wait a little longer, I don't know if Alt Mode 2.0 is going to be released on the Zen 3 laptop, but you might want to wait till 2022 if you can, if you want to get all the new stuff. But as it stands, for a thin and light AMD laptop, 8 cores, 72 degrees Celsius, you know, max load here with liquid metal here. It's extremely quiet. It has 12 to 14 hours of battery life. Runs great on Linux. 8 cores. Like I said, 64 gigs of RAM, 2 terabyte SSD. In terms of my case, like, this thing is amazing. For what I need. I'm pretty happy with what this is. So if it fulfills your needs, that's up to you. But it runs great, and there's also going to be some other great options in the future in terms of Zen 3 and also the 2022 Zen stuff. Maybe Intel will have some good offerings. As it stands, I think Ryzen, in terms of CPU performance, it's kind of the best at this point. I don't know if Tiger Lake will be any better, but yeah. If you're interested in this laptop, it runs great. It's pretty cheap at $800 bare bones, and 90 watt-hour battery. Battery life is amazing, and you should be good to go. So have a excellent day, and I'll let you guys decide what you want to do in terms of your purchases. So see ya.